You ever seen a woman step onto your land like she just bought the whole county? That's what happened to me that Wednesday afternoon. She was dressed like money red bottom heels, clean leather briefcase. The whole deal, and those shoes went sinking right into my muddy ranch soil like it was some kind of city sidewalk. She stopped at my gate, leaned in with this smug grin, and waited. Even my dogs barked like they knew trouble when they saw it. There I was, minding my business, trimming a low oak branch by the barn when I spotted her silhouette stood out like a billboard for "You Don't Belong Here." Her blazer screamed downtown law firm. Her attitude screamed HOA enforcer. "Good afternoon," she called out, holding up a fat manila envelope like it was the keys to my house. "Mr. Thomas Grant?" she asked. I wiped my hands on my rag, strolled over, looked her straight in the eye. "That's me." She handed me the envelope like it was my eviction notice. No kidding. "We're delivering a legal notice. The Homeowners Association is suing you for unauthorized structures, violation of visual harmony codes, and failing to obtain proper architectural permits." She didn't blink. I opened the envelope. It was all their official stamps, court dates, the HOA logo in some fancy blue ink. And her card, Samantha Kent, HOA Legal Counsel. She looked at me with that arrogance I've seen from plenty of courtroom opponents. "I strongly advise you to remove your red barn, your satellite tower, and that flagpole by week's end, or this matter will escalate." I almost laughed. "Miss Kent, I'm a retired attorney general," I told her, stepping just a little closer. "I helped write some of the land protection laws in this state. And this ranch? It's exempt from HOA jurisdiction. Always has been. It's in the county records. You might want to check with your clients. They just picked the wrong cowboy to sue." She blinked, lips pressed thin, but you could see the fight drain from her eyes. "We'll see about that." She turned, tripped a little on the gravel, and hustled back to her slick black BMW. I didn't laugh. Not yet. Because that wasn't the end. That was just the opening shot. What Samantha and the HOA did next, well, let's just say they almost took everything from me. Let me back up a sec. My name's Thomas Grant. Most folks just call me Tom. I'm 68 years old, retired attorney general, spent my life defending landowners from bullies, fighting the corporate creeps who think they can buy the law. After I retired, I moved out here, settled on my grandfather's ranch, 80 acres of Texas memory, handed down 3 generations. I rebuilt the house, fixed the barn, and yeah, I added a few things: solar panels, a flagpole flying both the U.S. and Texas flags every single day. Land, to me, is more than property. It's family, it's sweat and sunburn and late-night prayers under the stars. For years, it was peaceful until they built Clear Meadow Estates half a mile down the road. That's when the trouble began. Janet Holloway, HOA president, her reputation came with her. She could smile with her lips while her eyes judged you like a jury. Blonde hair, always in designer tracksuits, peppermint gum, and a nose for trouble. I met her at the farmer's market. "You live near the ranch with the red barn?" she said. "You really should consider repainting it. That red clashes with our HOA theme." I thought she was joking. She wasn't. Pretty soon, weird letters showed up in my mailbox. Unsigned complaints, unapproved construction, light pollution, your barn's too red. Caught folks taking pictures of my solar panels. Even saw Janet once pointing at my fence, whispering to a guy in a suit. I ignored it at first. My ranch wasn't in their zone. I was outside their reach. But these folks weren't playing. One morning, my ranch gate was bent like it had been rammed overnight. I called the sheriff, but with no cameras and no witnesses, it was a dead end. My neighbor, Chris Young, Army vet, bought the place next to mine, dropped by that afternoon. "You might want to see this," he said, showing me a post from the community app. Janet was rallying her troops. "That eyesore down the road is lowering property values. Legal team's on it. Visual order will be restored." Chris frowned. "They're talking about your place, Tom." I just laughed. Let them try. But when Samantha Kent showed up with those papers, I realized it was war. I spent that night reading the lawsuit. 3 claims: architectural violation, illegal utility installation, and a flagpole that broke their precious harmony code. All based on HOA bylaws. All nonsense. My land was exempt, protected by a zoning carve-out that that I'd helped draft years ago. This wasn't just a mistake, it was a threat. I decided I'd fight, but not the way they expected. I put on my cleanest jeans, a blazer, and my old state seal badge. Walked right into their next HOA meeting. The clubhouse was decked out flowers, slideshows, whispering residents. Janet spotted me, went pale for half a second, then slapped on that politician's smile. "Mr. Grant, what a surprise. I'm just here to observe," I said. "It's a private meeting." "I know, but as a citizen, I have every right to watch an HOA that stepped over the line." I sat through the small talk. Then, up on the projector, my barn legal action underway. I raised my hand. "I'd like to speak." Janet tried to hush me, but folks were curious now. "This lawsuit," I said, "is a gross misuse of your HOA's resources. My land isn't in your association. Your actions are unlawful and border on harassment. If this continues, I'll file a countersuit." The room went silent. "Wait, who are you again?" someone asked. I smiled. "Thomas Grant, former Attorney General." You could hear a pin drop. I tipped my hat and walked out, thinking maybe, just maybe, that would end it. I was wrong. 2 nights later, I woke to shattered glass of rock through my window, a note taped on. "This is your warning. Back off." I wasn't scared, just disappointed. Called the sheriff. Deputy Wade Mason came out, a good kid, sharp eyes. "Looks like the same tire tracks as last month," he said, shaking his head. "You think this is the HOA?" "Can't say, but folks down at Clear Meadow don't want you here. They think your barn, your panels, don't fit their world." Well, they're about to find out where their world ends. The next morning, I called an old friend, Judge Elaine Porter. She'd seen Janet in the news for shutting down a veterans barbecue. "File a restraining order," she advised. "Document everything. Some snakes bite twice before you catch them." I listened, set up cameras, reinforced my gates, and saved every letter, every post. Chris helped me install motion sensors and back up everything to the cloud. Didn't take long for the next round. 2 weeks later, I got a letter from the county, an official complaint about illegal water diversion from my solar panels. Pure fiction. But now they were trying to bury me in paperwork, force me to defend the obvious. I built a binder, permits, maps, photos, everything. Scheduled a public hearing. Day of the hearing, I wore my gray suit, brought back memories. The front row was packed with HOA members. Janet, arms crossed. Samantha, ready to pounce. But they didn't know they were walking into a trap. I laid out the facts, quoted the laws, handed the judge my binder. "This complaint is unfounded. The HOA has no jurisdiction." Judge Mahoney, tired eyes, flipped through my file, then looked at Samantha. "This hearing is over. Cease and desist." Janet's face went beet red. I gave a polite nod, thinking maybe that was that. But you know what? Desperate people do desperate things. That night, Chris burst in with his phone. Private Facebook group, HOA members plotting more complaints, even talking about stage violations. Nobody gets away with mocking Janet Holloway's HOA. I clenched my jaw. They just declared war. So I built the strongest case I could. Every letter, every threat, every rock, every bit of harassment. I didn't want to just win. I want to make an example. That night, I got a Callan, unknown voice warned, "Accidents happen on deserted ranch roads." I hung up, opened my old wall safe, took out my badge, my revolver, and my black case file. This wasn't my first rodeo with a rogue HOA. I drove to the sheriff's office, filed charges for harassment, property interference, requested an injunction. Sheriff Darnell, old friend, just nodded. Now that's the Attorney General, I remember. He served subpoenas on every board member, Janet, Samantha, and 3 others. But the HOA doubled down. Came home one day to the smell of burning smoke rising from behind my barn. Someone tried to set my place on fire. The fire crew confirmed it to arson. This wasn't petty anymore. This was criminal. Court day. I walked in armed with my binder and 30 years of courtroom grit. Janet sat flanked by her lawyer and Samantha. I laid out the whole mess: threats, vandalism, arson attempts. Judge Ramirez stuff as nails cut to the chase. "Mr. Grant's property is exempt. This lawsuit and these actions are harassment, bordering on criminal. Permanent injunction granted. Any violation, and you'll answer to this court. But she wasn't done. She forwarded the evidence to the DEA for possible criminal charges. Janet went ghost white. Samantha dropped her pen. But the fight didn't end there. Next day, more vandalism, cut fences, bogus tips about illegal chemicals. Wade shook his head. They're getting desperate. Somebody's pulling all the strings. I called Frank Russo, a PI buddy. He dug through HOA finances, found fraud funds funneled to a shell company tied to Samantha Kent's husband. Fraud, harassment, threats, it was all there. Soon, the DA launched a formal investigation. Cops raided the HOA clubhouse. Janet tried to play tough, but the news cameras caught her losing it. Samantha's firm got suspended, her accounts frozen. The HOA board resigned one by one. But the most satisfying part? I got a letter from a single mom said my stand, let her breathe again. Her kid could ride his bike for the first time in years. That meant more than all the verdicts. By summer, I spoke at a town hall on HOA reform. Donated my share of the settlement $75,000 to the Veterans Center and the fire department. If you were me, would you have kept the money or paid it forward? Let me know down below. Life got quieter, but peace ain't just the absence of trouble, it's justice in action. One day, I got a letter. Samantha Kent was permanently disbarred. Her brother confessed. Janet ended up behind bars. The rest of the board folded. And my ranch? Still standing. Folks started dropping by, shaking my hand, bringing drawings from their kids. Thank you for being brave. I remember what my granddad used to say, you don't run from a fight when you're right. That summer, I got to watch the sun set on a land that stayed free. So what now? I still ride the fence line every morning with my old dog, Duke. Still drink my coffee black. But now, when I see those flags waving, I know they mean something more. You fight for your land, for your neighbors, for what's right even when you're outnumbered. Especially then. Now, let me ask you, if someone tried to push you off your own land, what would you do? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you've ever tangled with an HOA or just believe in standing up for what's right, share this story. Because justice, my friend, still rides tall in Texas.